Just very recently, like about an hour ago, I just saw two new YouTube videos from Jeremy at Geeks and Gamers and another one from MechaRandom42, both of which, both these guys happen to be awesome YouTubers and definitely expose the whole wokeness agenda as well as the problems with Hollywood and that sort of thing. And I just have to say, they talked about the whole mediaversity stuff, about how these revi- these reviewers are now focusing more on gender, race, sexual orientation than about the story. That really infuriates me. But this right here is worse, in my opinion. The reason why is because while there are a lot of stories that happen to be just made up fictional stories, and they can be good or bad, depends on the on what you do or what kind of how the story is executed. But these are based on real life. Chernobyl, and they gave it a D. Let's look more into this. June 20th, 2019, Chernobyl. What makes one what makes one kind of pathetic representation, language, and accent more acceptable than another, such as race? Oh my god. Okay, let's take a look here. Craig Martin's 5-part HBO miniseries Chernobyl viewers with a cold, anxious dread as it pulls them deeper and deeper, and that's part of the technical. They definitely did. I would definitely agree, but give them a higher technical rating right here. I would say 4.5 out of 5 because it was very good. It even mentions a lot of things that I didn't even know about Chernobyl, such as the three guys who went in who were supposed to die, but fortunately didn't, and they were risking their own lives because if they did not drain this water inside a tank, it would have led to a massive explosion and a further dispersal of radiation. So that I love this TV miniseries. But then it gets into the whole gender thing. Dang it, sorry. In the Chernobyl podcast, a companion TV series, Masson explains to NPR's Piers Hegel that the Soviet Union was in many ways very regressive in terms of its gender politics. The power structures were almost entirely male, and the show reflects that. Indeed, the show only features two female characters, Lyudmila Ignatenko, the wife of a local firefighter, and Aloma Komyuk, a nuclear scientist investigating cause of disaster. And it goes on to explain a little bit of these other people, like Dumilda Ignatenko. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. She actually was a real person who had to deal with this. She saw her own husband suffer and die as a result of radiation. And while Alana Komyuk is not a real person, she was definitely a representation of the scientist who went on to save not only Ukraine, not only the Soviet Union, but Europe in general, because this was the radiation that was spilling out of Chernobyl as a result of the explosion was enough to make probably the entire continent of Europe uninhabitable for centuries. And this is all they and this is all they focus on: gender. Nearly every aspect of the Minnesota meanwhile makes her a tail-bearing, frustrating character upon her arrival in Moscow. Blah blah blah. Then reveals to her husband. Great. A terribly frustrating character because she cares for her husband, and while yes, I agree that it was ridiculous for her to since she was pregnant to deal with stuff and be close to him. I mean, this is her husband who is suffering. What the hell is she supposed to do? And you want the whole gender studies bullshit? And you're focused more on gender? What, you want more female representation? Okay, let's go on because I'm already showing this a whole lot to you, and I'm pretty sure you guys can pause it. So continuing on, race, 1.5 out of 5. The denizens of Ukraine, like most of Europe, are overwhelmingly white. But then this gets even worse. Chernobyl reflects that reality, and no people of color appear in the series. At the same time, actress Carla Sweet makes an interesting observation on Twitter. Given how that show's creator chose not to adhere to accuracy with respect to characters' accents, why not cast people of color in white roles? Because it's for a freaking English audience. It was made for English audiences. Oh my god. And they, of course, have the LGBTQ, where they mention here just there are no queer characters exist in Chernobyl. And to be fair, a few characters are openly heterosexual, and some of them are just going unmentioned, even though that these are real people. I mean, come fucking on. And they give this a D. Fascinating as Chernobyl is, it largely ignores the impact the disaster had on ordinary people in the ways in which the central government's actions were driven as much by self-preservation and party loyalty as a fundamental discard for the lives of the poor and working class. Have you not looked at these characters? Ludmilla, who saw her own husband die. Her husband, who went to stop a fire at Chernobyl. The two men, one dang it, I forgot what their names were. Dang it, I swear to God that they were in here before, but hold on. Give me a minute. You know what? It's better not to know because um Nikolai Belenk. I think it's. Dang it. You know what? Never mind. Forget it. It doesn't really matter anyway. Because a lot of these people have suffered it in their own way, and yet you're saying that this is ignoring the impact the disaster had on ordinary people? It spends a lot of their time on them from different perspectives. From the perspective of the scientists, from the perspective of the party officials, from the perspective of the firefighters, from the wives, from the miners. The miners. And you want to know something? Chernobyl is not the only victim here. One of my favorite movies from 2017, Dunkirk. Technical 4.5, gender 1 out of 5 because it says that Dunkirk avoids outright offensive portrayals of women, or Mel Gibson in scene in Steven Spielberg's Bridge of Spies, or Mel Gibson's Hacksaw Ridge, where female love interests spend their time gamely peering out windows as they pine for their men to come home. Maybe they actually love their men, and 2, they have a relationship, and 3, maybe it's because they're scared of losing them. And of course race here, because there are no people of color in film, and they are just thinking of the 2.5 million South Asians fought during the British and World War II. A few were at Dunkirk, but this movie is not about race. It never was. It was about the people who suffered during the evacuation of Dunkirk, both in the air, on the land, and the sea. Yes, there were white people who were the actors in this situations, but nonetheless, it was a shared experience that everyone was definitely aware of. Even the French, who didn't really get much of screen time in this film. This was all from a British person's perspective. All 3 of them. But I think the next one is the worst. And here's why. Hacksaw Ridge. A religious man who fought in the Second World War without using a rifle, who saved over 70 people in Okinawa. 70 people. I admire this man. And what did they give him? What did they give this film? An F. An F. And they call it a flaming garbage fire to watch. Technical 2.5. I felt like I was watching war propaganda from the 1940s combined with religious propaganda from Sunday school. Gender. It's a war movie made by a man. Did anyone really think this was going to get more than a 1.5? What do you think? How many women served in World War II? Not too much. There were cases that they served in the front lines, more specifically in the Soviet front, but still, we're talking about this perspective of the United States. We were fighting the Pacific. Just freaking saying. And many of the women were doing a lot of the things which men were forced to leave behind, working, building new industries, providing weapons of war, etc., etc., etc. Race. Not one person of color in this film, featuring hundreds of white men, unless you count, all those evil Japs. That is what they say. You do realize that the Japanese were our enemies. They wanted to kill us. They went on bonsai charges. And they were willing to kill innocent civilians. And you complain about race not being in the picture? This was World War II. Desegregation didn't happen until after the war. So of course they feature hundreds of white men. It just wouldn't make sense in historical perspective. And they say me adversity F. I swear I didn't watch this film for the sole purpose of hate watching. Yeah, I would be willing to disagree with that. I'm just trying to get all the Golden Globe nominations under my belt before January 8th. But JFC, this movie is a flaming garbage fire to watch. My eyes are still burning. I hate these people. I really do. Because I'm a huge history buff. And this is what they're doing. I wouldn't trust them to write a freaking history book. Because I bet that they would be willing to change a lot of this crap. I bet they would be willing to change a lot of things. Like maybe the Crusades. In fact, I think there was. In fact, I think I've. In the form of Kingdom of Heaven, they just tried to do something similar to that. Try to look at history buffs. Try to see from his perspective. He actually talks about it, how it not only was it a boring wreck, but it was just disingenuous to history. This is why I don't trust SJWs to not only write a good story, or to even write those stories within a franchise. I'm talking about you, Rian Johnson. I don't trust them in the history book, because this is why. They focus on the less important things than the actual events. They're not focusing on this man's heroism. They're not focusing on the miracle of Dunkirk, how many people survived the odds, and they don't even focus on the events concerning Chernobyl. Because screw that, it's their identity politics that they care about. They want to promote LGBTQ, race, gender. It's even though that in these historical films, miniseries, TV series, that was not really the case. It would be completely disingenuous in terms of history. I'm sorry, but this really freaking angers me. It really does. Not just from this whole woke BS that apparently the Hollywood elite as well as the leftist elite wants to push, but also just bashing these historical films, not based on whether or not they're historically accurate or historically authentic, but because that they don't represent a certain demographic like gender, race, or LGBT. That's why I'm angry. I really am angry. I'm pretty sure that everyone else would be angry as well, especially in my case, because I'm a huge history buff. I believe in the idea, like how history buff said, that we should focus on both the good and bad parts of history. Because if we forget either one, we will have an issue in the future. Those who forget or ignore the past are condemned to repeat it. That is why we need to remember these events, not the whole identity politics BS. I honestly hope. I honestly hope that I'm pretty sure that a lot of people feel the same way, because I believe this is truly, truly disingenuous, and it just hurts me on a level as a history buff. It really does. My name is Naomi, and on the Guard Truth, please post your comments down below. Subscribe, like this video, and share with your friends. And if you have any criticisms about my videos, please be sure to either post them in the comments below or just directly message me. Thanks for watching.